Hey guys, so today I'm here to talk all about how the birth of my twins went. And y'all, every time I think about it, I'm just like, what in the world? Because it absolutely did not go the way that I imagined. It was so far outside of the realm of that, and I feel like I'm still processing it. Yeah, it was a very wild ride. It was very unexpected the way that it happened, and very interesting. So I'm just gonna jump right into it and tell you how it all went down. So all throughout my pregnancy, everything was going well. I was like, yeah, this is not that bad. Like, you think about twin pregnancies and you hear all these horror stories and you hear about how difficult they are. But for me, I was up, I was mobile, I was able to do all the things throughout my pregnancy. It really didn't feel that daunting. I didn't feel horrible. I felt pretty good throughout the whole thing. Everything was just going great, right? That is until week 35, y'all. Everything changed. Like that. Being that it is a twin pregnancy, it's a multiple pregnancy, I was considered high risk. So throughout my pregnancy, I was seen by my OBGYN and I was also seen by maternal fetal medicine. So I had double the appointments of a regular pregnancy. Actually, I feel like I had even more than that because sometimes I would be seen like 2 and 3 times per week. Yeah, I was monitored very, very closely and the babies were monitored very, very closely. The whole time throughout my pregnancy, everything was amazing. Everything was perfect. My levels were perfect. My blood pressure was perfect. You know how at prenatal appointments you always have to leave a urine sample? Those were all perfect. Everything was going swimmingly, okay? I was just like, yay, you know? I was so happy about it. Again, until week 35. So I went to my 35-week appointment, you guys. I left my urine sample. Then I went into the examination room and the nurse took my blood pressure as usual. And she was like, were you running or were you rushing here or something? And I was like, no, not really. I've been sitting in the waiting room for a little while. I was calm. I was, chill. She was like, okay, I'm gonna take your blood pressure again in a little bit because it's kind of high. And that was the very first time that my blood pressure had ever been anything outside of absolutely perfect. But I didn't think too much of it because I'm like, maybe it's a false reading. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just wonky right now. Because again, everything leading up to that point was totally fine. I had no complications, no issues. So then my doctor came in. At my week 35 though, I had to do a group B strep test. And so I had to, get undressed from the waist down. When my doctor came back in to do the swab, she looked at my ankle, she looked at my feet, and she was like, are you feeling okay? And I'm like, yeah, I feel fine. And she looked at me a little closer and she said, you look very swollen. The nurse told me that your blood pressure was high. I really want to go and send you to get some labs because I just want to make sure that everything is good. And I was like, okay, sure, fine. I, again, didn't think too much of it because I'm just thinking this is regular pregnancy swelling. I was swollen with my previous 2 pregnancies, not as much as I was with the twin pregnancy, but I just figured I'm carrying 2 babies. I've never carried 2 babies before. This is probably why I'm a bit more puffy. I'm a bit more swollen. So she did the swab and then she sent me to go get blood drawn for my labs to test for a bunch of different things. So that was that. Left, went home, went on with life as normal. And then 3 days later, my lab results came in. I went and checked them and I saw that the lab results were like all over the place. Some were high, some were low. And I didn't exactly know what that meant, like what that indicated or anything like that. I just noticed that on some of the levels it said low, some of the levels said high. There were a couple that were normal, but there were a lot that were just outside of the normal range. That did make me pause and make me think like, what is going on, right? I just had that in the back of my mind, like, this is kind of weird. But I was like, I'm sure that if there's something wrong, if there's a big issue, that I'll be contacted by my doctor's office. So again, went on with life. And then the next day, my doctor, I guess she got a chance to review the results or got around to calling me or whatever. I was just cleaning up around the house, doing stuff, and my phone rang. But I had left my phone in a totally different part of the house. I didn't feel like going to get it, and I just let it ring. Well, it rang again. The person called me back to back. And I was like, this is weird because who's calling me back to back like that? Well, when I finally got to my phone, realized it was my doctor calling. Called the doctor back and she's like, I just reviewed your results from the other day. I had suspected that something was going on with you just by the way you looked and by how your blood pressure had skyrocketed. And the results showed that you actually have severe preeclampsia. And I'm like, what? What are you saying right now? Now, we were talking, it was around lunchtime. I was about to make my lunch. I'm about to eat. She's like, you didn't eat yet, did you? And I said, no. She's like, when was the last time you ate? And I said, around 8 o'clock this morning, I had a little breakfast. She's like, great, don't eat anything, don't drink anything. We need to deliver these babies today. You need to come to the hospital. You need to be here in 3 hours so we can do a C-section on you tonight. And I said, come again? I was not trying to hear this, y'all. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. In my mind, I'm thinking, get away from me with this Apollo. Like, stop. What are you talking about? This is too much. My brain is just all over the place. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm just thinking, you gotta be kidding me right now. I just could not believe how fast it went from 0 to 60. This just absolutely blindsided me, and I was just like, are you sure? Are you sure we have to do it today? My doctor was like, no, it's very severe. I had just hit 36 weeks pregnant, and she said, I feel like the best thing to do would be to get these babies out now, deliver them, make sure that they are okay, and make sure that you are okay, because your results show that this is extremely, extremely serious, and your levels are just looking not good. I, again, could not believe it. I felt fine. Well, okay. I felt fine, but towards the end, towards that 34, 35 week mark, I did start to get very sore. Like, my swelling got so bad that it hurt me sometimes to even walk on my feet because my feet were so puffy. My legs and my feet were just very, very sore. So I would get massages every night to try to help that. I would put my feet in a little massage machine as well. I just blew up overnight. So it just came on very quickly. And what I learned afterwards when I did a little research, because I really didn't know much about preeclampsia. I never thought that I would get something like this. Apparently, it can come on very suddenly and it can cause a lot of major issues. So I was just standing there like, this cannot be my life. Because the entire time, throughout my entire pregnancy, my biggest concern was the positioning of the babies and making sure that they were in optimal positions so that I could have a vaginal birth. I wholeheartedly planned on pushing both of these babies out of my hoo-ha. My first two pregnancies were singletons, but they were both vaginal deliveries. I had absolutely never wanted for my stomach to be sliced open and for babies to be pulled out. I never wanted a C-section. I was trying to avoid that at all costs. And I know that with twins that there's a higher likelihood of having a C-section because there can be so many different complications or things that could come up that would make a vaginal delivery dangerous or just not the best course of action. But the whole time during my pregnancy, I was like, nope, I had tunnel vision. I'm having a vaginal delivery. I'm gonna push these babies out. Like, that's all I knew. That's all I wanted. And when my doctor told me I had to be at the hospital in 3 hours so I could get prepped and ready to have a C-section for that very same night, I was like, what is life? So my doctor called me in the middle of the day. I was about to eat lunch. She told me not to eat or drink absolutely anything because they don't want you to eat or drink anything before a major surgery like a C-section. When you are restricted from doing things, it makes you want that thing even more. And so as soon as she told me that, I feel like my hunger cranked up to 10. I wasn't even that hungry at the time, but I knew it was lunchtime and I had to eat. So I was preparing to make something to eat. But just knowing that I couldn't eat, I was restricted, it was like my stomach started growling. And I wanted to eat everything in the house, but I couldn't. I did though sneak a little bit of water because I was kind of thirsty. And I'm like, listen, I gotta do something. I'm gonna take a few sips of water. So not only was I blindsided by the fact that I had literally 3 hours to be at the hospital, I had not packed a bag. I had to get all my stuff ready. My son was in school. We had to figure out how to get him home and settled and what to do. Like, literally scrambling, you guys. Scrambling to get everything together because this was not in the cards. Hold on, let me tell you about this day. First of all, it was so chaotic the day that this all went down. It was like a perfect storm, you guys. So an hour before my doctor called, we were in a pre-construction meeting for the pool build, meeting with the contractors, doing all that. At the same time, we had people digging in our yard to move the electric lines because the electric lines were in the way of where the pool was going to be. So we had those people digging. We were meeting with the contractors. Because we were having the electric line moved, the electricity at the house had to be turned off by the power company. So we had no electricity in the house, okay? The cleaner showed up probably like an hour after my doctor called. While we were scrambling to get everything together, figure everything out, get everything packed, the cleaners came, forgot about them, but we had no electricity. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. You have to clean in the dark. So we have people digging in our backyard. We have the cleaners here who can't plug up anything, can't turn on the lights. I'm trying to put all the shades up to bring in all the light and everything like that while trying to get everything together. And then because I had never thought about having a C-section, I never thought that would be me, I had to scramble to put together a birth plan for a C-section. So I'm on Canva, I'm on Google, I'm like looking up stuff. What does a C-section entail? What are my options? Because I had a birth plan already for my vaginal birth, but I didn't have a C-section birth plan. So I had to put that together on the way to the hospital and had that printed and laminated. And I'm so happy that I made that birth plan, that I took the time to do it, because it came in handy so much. And I can't stress enough how essential a birth plan is. I had it with my previous delivery as well. When you put stuff in writing, they have to follow it, or they have to check with you and make sure that things are okay. And it just ensures that things go according to what you want or what you don't want. So anyway, I get to the hospital and they have me go into this room. I have to shower using this antiseptic soap that they gave me. They laid me down, they started my IV, they hooked me up to the monitors. And you guys, how crazy is it that when I got to the hospital, I started contracting back to back to back, full-blown labor contractions. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. How on earth am I going into labor, but I'm about to get a C-section? What are the odds? But the nurse, when she came to check the monitor and see what was going on, I was like, am I in labor right now? And she was like, well, sometimes that happens because of the stress of you know, these type of things. It will put you into labor, or it could make you have those labor type contractions. So I don't know if I would have naturally gone into labor at the same time, or if it was just the stress of everything going on that made me start contracting so wildly. And crazy enough, I actually kind of appreciated the fact that I was having these very intense contractions, because I'm like, well, at least I get to experience some type of natural labor stuff before I have to go into the surgery, you know. So I kind of made the most of that. In the holding room, a nurse came in and she shaved me to prep for the C-section. They put this like warm blanket over me. It was hooked up to this machine and it felt so good and comforting. But yeah, so I was in there prepped and ready. I met with the anesthesiologist and he told me how everything was going to go once I got into the operating room. So anyway, time came for my C-section, and up until that point, once I got to the hospital, I had calmed down a lot. I had kind of made peace with it. I was like, you know what? This is not what I expected, but I'm excited that I'm going to be meeting my babies today. I was kind of over being pregnant. You know how when you get to the end, the finish line, you're like, okay, I want my babies here. I don't want to be pregnant anymore. I'm over this. That was kind of where I was. So I had calmed down a lot. But then when they were like, all right, it's showtime. It's time to go and to get this C-section, I started like, oh crap, this is happening. So I walk into the OR. I had to get a spinal. And you know how when you get a spinal or an epidural, you can't have anyone in there with you. They don't want anybody in there with you. You have to be alone. So I had to walk into the OR by myself. Lights, it was very bright. Just a lot of medical equipment around. I was in there alone, just with all these people masked up and dressed up in their surgical stuff. It was very scary. Let me just say it like that. Very scary. I'm like, oh crap. So they told me to lean over so I can get the spinal. And when the anesthesiologist was talking to me earlier about it, he was like, well, a spinal is usually less painful than getting an epidural. I don't know if I would agree with that, because I had 2 epidurals before and I don't remember ever feeling anything when I got them. But with this spinal, it was not comfortable at all. It wasn't like super painful, but I was not a fan. But anyway, he did the spinal, and as soon as he did it, he's like, okay, hurry up and put your legs up and lay down, because this is going to kick in fast. Laid down, had my legs up, had my arms spread, and at that point, y'all, I was looking around. I had my neck on this thing that was so uncomfortable. I don't know what this thing was. It was like a neck harness, neck rest. It was very uncomfortable. It was giving me a pain in my neck. I'm staring at all these lights. I'm hearing all these people talking. They're putting the drapes up. They're like washing me off. I started freaking out internally. Literally was, I feel like having a panic attack laying on that table, y'all, because it was just too overwhelming, too many emotions, to the point where I was like, can somebody please just put me under general anesthesia, because I don't want to experience this right now. I just wanted to be knocked out and wake up when it was all over, because I'm like, oh my goodness, they're about to cut my stomach open. I'm feeling queasy. It was just very, very intimidating. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. They say that this is going to take about an hour. How am I going to lay here for that long of a period of time? I just didn't think that I could do it. I felt like I was going to pass out. It was just a lot on me. A lot to think about, a lot to take in. It was just way, way, way too much for me at the time, especially since this was sprung on me literal hours ago. I was not doing very well laying on that table getting ready for the C-section.
Indication for C-section is severe preeclampsia based on labs and blood pressures. We're going to give TXA, Deborah, once the twins are born.
Yes, that's what Dr. Lasher told me, yes.
Regardless of what's going on.
Okay.
We have the hemorrhage card in the room.
So yeah, they finally start, and I'm like nervous that the spinal didn't kick in, because at first I could feel a little something down here happening. I'm like, please, oh please, let this medicine or whatever work, because I don't want to feel me getting cut open. And luckily I didn't feel that. So everybody's there, my doctor is there, they get started, they pull baby number 1 out, baby is crying. Thank the Lord, because you know how when you give birth and you always listen for that cry just to make sure that everything's good. So when I heard that cry, it was a sigh of relief. I'm like, whoo. Yes, they whisk baby away to the little bassinet thing where they can assess and do whatever they were doing over there. A minute later, baby number 2 comes out. By the way, sidebar, baby number 1 was head down. So baby number 1 comes out, boom. Baby number 2 though was transverse. Now remember earlier I had told you guys that my biggest concern was the positioning of the babies this whole time, because they would flip-flop. One week they would both be head down, then the next week they would both be breech. Then the next week one would be head down, one would be head up. Then the next week one would be head down and one would be transverse, which is sideways. So they would switch positions all the time, and they were making me so nervous because my doctor said if baby A, which is the baby that's closer to the opening, you know, the baby that will be delivered first, if baby A is head down and baby B is head down or breech, it will be fine for a vaginal delivery. But if baby A is breech, then we can't do a vaginal delivery. Or if baby B is transverse, then we can't do a vaginal delivery. Well, the week before, baby A was head down, good, but baby B was transverse. And so I was very nervous about that. I was hoping that baby B would go head down or either breech, because then I could still have a shot at a vaginal delivery. Once they did a quick assessment of both, hold on, baby's crying. 1 second. Okay, once they did a quick assessment of each twin and they wiped them down a little bit, one of the nurses came and brought each of them over for me to see, and that was such a special moment, because at first it felt like, you know, they pulled them out and they whisked them away to do the things that they needed to do, make sure they were good. But I'm like, I want my babies. I want to see my babies. I carried these babies for this whole time, and you always wonder, what do they look like? I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to actually see them in person. So that wait between my doctor pulling them out and, you know, them doing their checks, it just seemed like forever, but it was only a couple minutes. But when the nurse brought the babies over to me, I was just so ecstatic. They were absolutely beautiful, and I was so happy. in the recovery room, you guys, I was in rare form, okay? So I got the spinal, but along with the spinal, they give you morphine as well. And the morphine is for after the C-section to relieve the pain. And I was hyped up on that morphine. When I look back at the footage during this time that I was in recovery, I'm like, oh my goodness.
In recovery, I feel like the morphine is kicking in because my eyes get a little low. Speech get a little slurry. And I can recognize that. But I feel a lot better now that I'm not laying flat on the operating room table and going through it, okay? My neck had a crook in it. I made it though. And the babies are here. They are beautiful. They are healthy. I'm so excited.
I remember a little bit of this time, but my memory is pretty shoddy just because of everything that was going on, but also because of all the medications and things that were pumped into me. I was absolutely ravenous. I had not eaten or really drank anything all day long, and it was very, very late at night once I made it to recovery. So all they wanted to give me at first were ice chips, and I was going through those ice chips like they were going out of style. I mean, they were the best ice chips I ever tasted in my life. I could not get enough, and apparently I was running the recovery nurse ragged because I was just scarfing them down so much, and I was like, can I get some more? Can I get some more? Can I get some more? And now thinking back on it, I feel kind of bad because that lady was probably like, what is going on with this girl? She's crazy. But yeah, in the recovery room, I just wanted anything I could get my hands on. They didn't want to give me any crackers or anything. I'm like, can you sneak me some crackers? Can you sneak me some juice? Like anything. And eventually, I think she did give me like an apple juice towards the end of my 2-hour recovery period. I was in the recovery room for a couple hours, and then from there, I believe they took me to see the twins. So they took the twins to the NICU while I was in the recovery room. Now this I do not remember at all in my memory. The only way that I know that it happened is because I have video footage of it. Otherwise, I would not have known that I went to go see the twins. And this is where I actually got to touch them for the first time. They were in like the little bassinet incubator type of things, but I got to put my hand in and touch them per the video footage. Again, I cannot recall this in my memory because of all the medication that I was on, but they took me in to see the twins for a little while. And by that point, I think it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So I was probably very, very tired on top of everything else. But anyway, the next day, well, the same day because it was in the morning time, but a couple hours later, like late morning, was able to go in and actually really see the twins, hold them for the first time. So I didn't get to actually hold them until maybe like 16 hours after the C-section. So it was a wild time, very unexpected delivery, nothing like what I had envisioned or imagined or wanted, but I'm so thankful that everything turned out fine. I'm healthy, the babies are healthy, everybody is really good. The babies are here and they are just the cutest little, most snuggly little babies ever, and I am on cloud 9 just to have them here. And even though I never wanted a C-section, I'm not mad about it. When this all came about and my doctor was like, you have to come to the hospital in a couple hours to get a C-section. Initially, I thought I was gonna be very disappointed. Afterwards, I was gonna just feel down about it, how these babies came into the world. But actually now, I'm not beating myself up about it. There's nothing I could have done differently to change this. There's nothing that I personally did wrong. And the fact that these babies are here and they're healthy, and my doctor, she made the call that she felt was right based on the results from my labs. I'm just more grateful and thankful that everything turned out okay. Now I will say, recovery from a C-section, I don't know about anybody else. Some people recover like, you know, it's nothing. For me, it was so much more difficult than recovery from my vaginal births. My vaginal births, I feel like I was up and at 'em the next day. My C-section, oh no. I could barely walk, and they want you to get up and walk around and do all the things. I could barely get up and walk just to bend and to hoist myself up. It was so painful. Where the incision area was, it was just hard to bend, just hard to move for about the first week. Now after that, things started to get better and better very quickly, but that first week was extremely difficult for me, just mobility wise, pain level wise. Now here I am 2 weeks later. I feel really good. I'm mobile. I can do pretty much everything. I would say that my pain is about 80% gone. I do have a little bit of soreness left, but it's not to the point where I feel like I have to take any medicine for it. And the weight has been falling off so fast. I'm so happy with how the weight has been coming off. My doctor, when I went to my 1 week checkup, my post-op checkup, she was like, have you been peeing a lot? And I'm like, yes. She was like, I bet, because with the preeclampsia and the swelling, you were just full of fluid. You were full of fluid. Even when I opened you up to do the C-section, a bunch of fluid just came out. And so apparently my body was holding on to a lot of water, and I have been urinating it out a lot, which has really drastically, I mean, my weight has been going down so fast since my C-section. So I'm really happy with how I'm looking, how I'm feeling now. By the way, I did not mention the genders yet of the twins. So I have 2 boys, 2 more boys. So boy twins, they are fraternal, and they absolutely do still act the way that they did in the womb. Like I was telling you in previous videos, one of them seemed rambunctious. He just was all over the place, always moving around. Every time I got sonograms, he was up in the camera. The other one, every time I got sonograms, he did not want to be photographed. He did not want his picture taken. He was turned away from the camera. I barely have portrait pictures of him in sonogram form, and I got a bunch of sonograms, you guys. Like pretty much every week from week 28, I got sonograms every week at the MFM. Baby B did not want to be photographed, and he was always the more chill one. He was always the more like relaxed one, and it holds true now that they are actually here out in the world. Baby A turns up, okay? He turns up. Baby B is chill, he's calm, he's patient. So it's just so funny to see how they have kept their personalities from what I noticed inside the womb, and we'll see how that continues on. So this is twin A. This is big brother by a whole minute. And then this is twin B, little brother. Still doesn't want to be on camera. And I'm still in shock. I'm still in awe that I carried 2 babies at one time. This whole pregnancy, this whole time period, it has just been surreal. It's been surreal. It has been like nothing I ever thought. I was so shocked that I was pregnant. I was so shocked that I was pregnant with twins. And the delivery was shocking as well. Yeah, I'm very happy, you guys. This is such a new adventure that we are all embarking on. Yeah, it's been great so far. They are 2 weeks old now, and I could not be more thrilled about having them here. So that is my labor and delivery story, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on my next one. Bye.